You are listening to the Sacred Pathways podcast, stories and wisdom from walking the heart's way. I am your host and co-journer, Sydney Searchwell Simpson, and I am thrilled to walk this journey with you. Bismillah. Let us begin. Yay! Welcome everyone to Sacred Pathways podcast, where we share and explore stories and wisdom from walking the heart's way. On this bridge of spirituality and social transformation, I am so excited and so honored to share our guest and my dear friend, Noah Souder-Russo. Did I pronounce your last name right?
It's Souder.
Souder-Russo.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. I'm going to give y'all a little taste of Noah. Noah Souder-Russo is an urban ritualist, sonic explorer, and guide during this time of transition. His offerings center around deconditioning and healing through music, writing, and community gatherings. Noah honors the sacredness of not knowing, confusion, and chaos as a doorway to the divine, deepening our relationship with our intuition and frequency of authentic expression. Noah is a multifaceted human being, and you can read all of that in his bio, which I'll share in the show notes. But we'll just say hello to Noah, and you can hear his magic. Hi.
Hello, dear Sid. Hi.
How's your heart feeling today?
My heart feels stretched hearing those words from you. Then the stretch, the stretch of like just allowing that, just to kind of enter into my pores, just to receive that, like to receive someone else. To receive someone else's invitation to be in conversation with them, to their platform, into their kind of energetic sphere. And so there's a stretching there for me, which is just a kind of like, yeah, it's okay. Like you can allow it in. You can allow this in. And so with that stretching, there's grief that's there, there's tenderness that's there, there's joy that's there, and there is a trust, there is a like resting, just a kind of resting in trust and trusting that what needs to be shared will be shared, and that's it. And all my Virgo placements can just like, just a little, just a loving, like, yeah, you can go grab some tea over there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for you sharing all of that, all of your heart. And it's interesting because you and I both decided that we're going to come to this conversation open, even though we have an understanding of what we want to talk about. And we want to talk about the unknown, confusion. You said potentiality, which is like just a word I love so much. And I found too just that sense of this too being an unknown, like this time that we're having together and we're sharing together. And like you said, just opening up to trusting that what has to be shared will be shared. From that space of, just like trust and all the good things. So here we are. I want to ask you, in your bio, you mentioned that your work is deeply in your life. When I say your work, I mean your life. But it's in the sacredness of not knowing, confusion and chaos, and knowing this as a doorway to the divine. And I want to ask you, like, how has that unfolded in your own journey, this opening up to all unknowing confusion, to a doorway to divinity?
Yeah, thank you for the question. The first thing that comes is this teaching koan, I don't know quite how to describe it, phrase that one of my first Buddhist teachers, Josen Tamori Gibson, would share, which is not knowing is most intimate. And so I think about what lies in the potential of not knowing. I think about the ways that, so much of these systems that we are currently really reckoning with, and the deep shadow kind of coming to bear collectively, individually, so much it is based on kind of like legibility and knowing, who is legible, who is known, and these kind of like homogenized boxes that so many of us are pushed into, trapped into. And so, yeah, what does it mean to actually like not know? To open to, I love this word kind of like potentiality, which I think is maybe is a word in quantum physics, which I can't talk about in this moment. But yeah, this womb almost, this like matrix of potential. And there feels to me something really sacred of that, kind of resting back into that and listening and being like, I don't know what's coming through, but this thing is coming through. And I guess for me in my own practice, really just like develop enough trust in myself, enough connection to the body, enough trust in my body, enough trust in there's a playfulness, there's like an imagination. I was talking about imagination with someone earlier today, and the ways that we're trained out of imagination like so early. Many of us go to these institutions and schooling, and there's you're having an imaginary friend, that's not real. Like, who's to say that's not real? It's an experience that someone is having, like, that is true, that's real. And the ways that we're so early on cut off from play and from imagination, kind of indoctrinated into the paradigm of knowing, of scientific, materialist, physical reality being prioritized over the unseen, over the not knowing, over the non-physical. And yeah, the ways that kind of training, I think, really disconnects us from our imagination and from the play and from the potentiality and from the like, okay, I'm gonna go into this conversation with Sid and like, we'll just fuck around and find out, and we'll see what emerges, and there's such beauty, I think, and again, like you were saying, like the sacredness in the potential for something maybe not novel to emerge, but something else to emerge, like what people are talking about, the secret third thing. It feels to me like space for not knowing is, to go back to that quote, is like, it is a kind of deep intimacy with all things, because I'm not categorizing and judging and putting in a thing. Okay, I know this thing, this is a tree outside of my house, I understand, right? It's a sugar maple tree. And that's not to say that there's anything wrong with that, that kind of conceptualizing, but I just wonder like what work that does. And so what happens when when there can be some play invited in, and what can happen, what can emerge. I feel excited about the kind of potentiality there. And then there's more that I can share about personally what I'm moving through in terms of not knowing and confusion and so on. But I think I'll stop there for now, and curious to hear what your relationship is also with that.
I just had to say, I received so much. I always receive so much from you. But I received so much in your expansion and expression of this box of knowing that we have built so much of our institutions and like sense of self within, and how we enter this world ultimately unknowing,
Mm.
like you said, and we play with that. And just like innately, inherently, we play with that. And then through our training, we sort of lose touch with that space of just pure potential. It's funny because you mentioned when I was just like mind mapping, soul mapping,
Mm.
my relationship with the unknown and what I think about with the unknown. One of the things I wrote down was that it just felt like the dark womb of life. Like again, because it's unknown, it's so easy to project lots of fears into that space. And I think, the fear of the unknown is a huge fear a lot of people have. I myself
Mm.
have navigated that, but I've come to understand it's less about fear of the unknown, but what we project into that dark womb of
Mm.
just pure potential. And like you said, like trust is just so present. It's just ever present of what it is to really trust what is not known, and also to trust what it is that you do know. You mentioned that you're not just trusting life as an experience outside of you, but also trusting your body as an expression of life. And
Mm.
that also being a way of knowing that has often been dismissed for a more
Mhm.
perhaps a near intellectual form of knowing, more concrete, fact based, this is what it is. And
Yeah.
that's just like what's arriving in hearing you express
Mm.
all of that.
Mm.
As for my relationship with unknowing, I mean, gosh,
Hmm.
I mean, now I can honestly say that for the most part, I love not knowing. For the most part, I think I've developed a relationship now where it's almost surrendering to the fact that this is a mystery, and all that I know just speaks to how much I don't know. And so I feel like now I'm in the practice of like putting roots into that way of being,
Mm.
of, here, this mystery is another way to know God. This mystery is another way to know each other, to know myself, like, boom. But it was not always that way. I used to resist the unknown like crazy,
Mhm.
crazy. But then I sort of realized that I was limiting potential. I was limiting
Mm.
possibility ultimately in trying to control the unknown and trying to force it into something that the unknown did not want to be for now.
Mm.
Who knows? But yeah, yeah, it's a thing that I'm learning every day to surrender to.
Mm. Yeah, I love everything you're sharing, and I think I think I shared this with you after maybe it was your last newsletter that you sent out, because I felt there was something really for me deeply inspiring and profound about receiving your transmission of being situated in the unknown.
Mm.
Like I felt your rootedness in that. And that for me really kind of like modeled and opened up the possibility for me to relax back or like yield into the experience of the unknown a little bit, you know? And I think that somehow that feels transgressive in a way, almost like sometimes I receive it as that, in the sense that I don't receive enough people being like, yeah, I don't know, and like I'm here and I'm just here and we just out here, trying this thing, and then we'll kind of see what happens. Yeah, I hope it's okay. I'm just like loving up on you real quick. Like, and where it's just like I received that in a way that it pointed me towards some of my own internalized shame on being in a space of like I don't know,
Mm.
and so much of our training around linearity, knowing in a particular way, having to know what are you going to do when you grow up, and then you're going to do these illusions of safety and stability, which I think as we're in this transition, a lot of that is kind of is falling away, like, or like is opening the awareness to the illusion that has always been an illusion. It's like the school and the job and the home and these kind of promises that modernity has lulled us into. They're being exposed for what they are, in a way. And so I really appreciate your relationship with that. And with sharing, it's like such a generous offering to share the way that one is being in relationship with whatever is emerging. And yeah, it feels deeply sacred. I mean, you know talking about the kind of like dark feminine energy, and the ways that this shadow of the masculine, as the light, as the known, that, like, the shadow of that being patriarchy, being rigidity, being white supremacy, colonization, so forth. What ways of knowing and of being that are in the darkness, are in the kind of cauldron, and like
Yeah.
how, and that's like, right. And yeah, yeah.
What ways of knowing are in the darkness, are in the cauldron, just waiting for us to sort of just peek in and sort of like
Mm.
dip our toes in. Oh my goodness. I'm just sitting here. I'm like, oh my gosh, we could talk about this. We could talk about this. We could talk about this. But I want to ask you, because you mentioned the dark feminine and this transition that we're moving through collectively. And when you sense into that, what wisdom do you think the dark feminine has for us in this transition? And like, what is this transition? What is this unknown? I feel like energetically, I've been sensing this transition since, I would say, 2020, prior to
Hmm.
the pandemic. I actually had this embodied experience before I had any sense of anything spiritual, where I woke up one day and the first thought and the first knowing in my body was like, there's a storm coming. And I was
Mm.
like, and I could not shake the feeling. It was a bright, beautiful day, but that feeling was with me the whole day. And when I think about what's unfolded since then, I'm like, I can sense shift is already unfolding, and we don't know what that looks like because our security is rooted in these things that we found are not actually working for us. Do
Mm.
not allow for evolution, do not allow for life to do what it
Mm.
does. And so I want to hear from you, like, maybe what the dark feminine is, what wisdom the dark feminine has for this transition, and what the transition is that you feel.
Yeah, such a beautiful question. Yeah, I just want to say I don't know. Um,
For real.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I feel like, yeah, there are so many ways, I think, to talk about the transition. One of the frameworks that has been helpful for me, because it has kind of provided language for, as you were saying, that like that storminess, or that that amorphous, like, intuitive shift, is it comes from human design. So human design talks about, basically, what are called global cycles, and so, similar to an outer planet, like the shift from Pluto into Aquarius, kind of energetically conditioning the collective in a way, and then obviously, in particular, depending on our natal chart, there is, in human design, they talk about like a kind of background frequency that is conditioning the collective. So I don't know if each of the background frequencies are in cycles of 400 years. I could be wrong about that, but basically we're ending, according to human design, we're ending a 400-year global cycle in what's called the cross of planning, which is ending in 2027. And so I think it's probably similar to astrology, at least in the way that I feel it. Like, it's not like a hard, okay, 2027, we like shift. It's like, it's already here. And we're in that transition. So we're leaving the cross of planning and we're going into what's called the cross of sleeping phoenix. And so again, these are just kind of like background frequencies that are conditioning the collective. But cross of planning, their core fear was the fear of failure. And that's the kind of fear that we learned collectively. And so again, it's like putting our power in everything outside of ourselves, putting our power in institutions, putting our power in government, in corporations, and right in that sense of like, oh, safety and security and stability is in a home. Safety and security and stability is in a job. It's in a relationship. It's in the nuclear family. It's in heteronormativity, etc. And as that is like breaking down, we're now moving in 2027, the cross of sleeping phoenix, where the core fear is uncertainty. And so I'm pretty sure that's right. I could not be right. So basically, double check everything I say. But that's my understanding. I would talk about this in some spaces on doing patriarchy work where we're not going to solve a problem created by the mind with the mind, kind of thing. Is like, all like the things that we're doing to try and decondition and heal these internalized systems of dominance, like like being careful when that is just kind of reinforcing and reifying those systems. And so again, this energy of the dark feminine of the shadow. I mean, it's really like, it's the muck, it's the shadow stuff. And when that is healthy and when that is in union, there's a wholeness and there can be an integrity. But if we haven't faced our shadow, if we haven't faced the collective shadow of all of these systems, then we get what we got now, what we're moving through now. And so the sense that I get, things feel energetically like they're moving very fast. I think we talked about that. There's a quickness, and at least personally, I have been experiencing like so much death and rebirth. And even I loved when you and I chatted before this about the bio, and I think you said something to me of like, when people ask you for your bio, you're like, well, that's who I was, 2 weeks ago. But so, but like, I don't, like, how do you even describe how you're showing up in this moment, and I love that because I feel so resonant. That's so resonant with whatever is speaking through me, is living through me, whatever is being asked of me in this moment. It is like I am being initiated and invited into that darkness and into that death and rebirth and into, oh, this is who you thought you were, and now here this is. And it can be really scary. It can be destabilizing, destabilizing from the physical material to, all my stuff is in storage in the moment, right? So I don't have stable housing, right? But I am safe in this moment, and I feel grateful, I feel grateful for the support of this beautiful couch and the sugar maples outside and the fire here and the land that I'm on. Yeah. So to sum it up, I don't know.
It's so real. Yeah, I'm gonna have to really laugh about it because you're just like, I really don't know, and there's nothing I can do about the not knowing. So I'm just gonna be here.
Right. Well, right. That's the thing, right? I think that's what feels true. What feels true is this connection, this deepening connection to intuition, the deepening connection to the body's GPS, to the body knowing, to ancestral knowing, and then just being like, I don't know, but I'm just some shit's gonna happen, and I'm gonna trust that I can show up and I can meet it, whatever it is, and then being in communion and community with like-minded beings, like yourself and calling in support of the unseen and of the ancestors and of the elements. And there's so many beings that we can ally with at this time, that delusion that it is just me as the individual to figure out. Yeah, it's just this disease of modernity, you know. And I don't mean to pathologize or say that there's anything wrong with sickness or disease, because I don't think so. But yeah, it is. I should say it is the delusion of modernity.
I'm processing and integrating. Oh my goodness. You spoke a little bit about what I feel are like almost guiding lights in this field of uncertainty, this deeper intuitive knowing, ancestral wisdom, connection with the earth and with the animals and with the elements and other beings seen and unseen. And it's interesting because when I hear you speak of that, I'm reminded of that, you know, old adage that says the journey and the destination are one. To open up to all of your guides, to open up to all of the support that is present and here and alive to guide us in and through whatever lays ahead. It's almost like an openness that one does not know, or there is so much more beyond your capacity to grasp. And yeah, that's just like what's really present and alive, this process also being the destination and the necessity of being present. I mean, you and I have spoken, the last time we chatted, we talked a lot about, because we were both in this space of just not knowing and not necessarily having, the illusion of securities that the way of living and being on this world have promised, where we're both like, I don't know what's going to happen in the next month. I'm not going to try to pretend what's going to happen in the next month. Like, this sense of security through job, the sense of security through housing completely disappeared, but feeling a deep rootedness in life and sort of like allowing that to, I guess what's actually arriving now is there's this sense of where am I rooted? And where am I rooted? Am I rooted in what to me feels like unrealities, the ways of living and being that we've inherited in this world through government institutions and cultural understandings of who we are and how to relate to one another? It just feels so unreal. And there was a death process, I would also say, for myself. I love how you mentioned that, just constant boom, 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 boom. So you don't even know who you're going to be next week. But it's interesting because, and I'm wondering if you can speak to this too. I myself have been, because I've really surrendered to the fact that the unseen and the unknown is actually my space to ground fully into when it comes to who, what is guiding myself, guiding us all through this moment. And I've sort of lost my train of thought.
Yes.
But I've been sort of grounding into, deepening into, like, ultimately my spiritual evolution is my gift and my offering to life, to humanity, in my being, in anything I create from that point. And I've been really grounding into how to exist within the unchanging amidst the changes, and how to ground into the eternal in this realm of temporality that the eternal chose to be in and chose to see what's up, you know? What's happening over here. And I actually don't know if I have a question. That's just what I have.
So beautiful. I'm just
This conversation's just us in awe of each other.
just like, I don't, do you want me to speak after that? Yeah, wow. Yeah, just receiving. I'm like really receiving that as a transmission. A few things I think come up for me. My teacher, Kitty Sorrow, comes to me. He is a former monastic in the Thai forest tradition of Buddhism, and also received transmission in the Chan, or the Chinese Zen tradition of Buddhism, specifically around Kuan Yin and devotional practice around Kuan Yin. And before we chant, he will often say, honoring what is worthy of honor. As you were saying, that is like, it's like, where do we go for refuge? Where do we find refuge? And he talks about these words of the deathless or the unshakable, which I hear you evoking as well. I could say for me in my practice, I will take formal or informal refuge, every morning. So I'll take refuge in the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha. So take refuge in the Buddha as, the historical Buddha, Shakyamuni Buddha, the teacher, in the Dharma, in the teachings, or just, the way it is, nature, and in the Sangha, in community. In the spiritual community. And there's the term Kalyanamita, I think is the Pali term for spiritual friendship. So these are the things that feel trustworthy, I think, for me. And it doesn't feel dogmatic, in a way. In my experience, it doesn't feel like, oh, here's a thing that you have to believe. There's another Pali word, Pali, the language of the historical Buddha, kind of very similar to Sanskrit. There's a Pali term which I love, which is called ehipassiko, and the Buddha taught ehipassiko, which roughly translates to come and see for yourself, which maybe today we would say fuck around and find out. No disrespect. But there is a sense of like, okay, like you don't need to believe me, and this is why I love frameworks like human design as well, is because here's someone kind of downloading, offering this framework and being like, here it is, but like, please, it requires you to go test it out and see if it's resonant for you, and that for me, again, as we are in this, which I feel is really beautiful, in the midst of the violence and the confusion and the chaos and the destruction, that there is this splitting off that's happening, but we're splitting off from these really unsustainable, kind of homogenized collective ways of being, and not collective in like you're my peoples and I got you and community care and mutual aid, but like this conditioned collectivity. Right. And we're in this splitting off, and in the splitting off, many of us are, which is, for me, is the most beautiful thing, is people becoming deeply in touch with their particular authentic expression, with their autonomy, with their power, and then offering that into the collective, and understanding that power is not, power over, it's not domination power, it is this collective power. It's like, oh, like you're on this shit, you're on this, and that's beautiful. And like, and that sense of like, oh, I really resonate with this person and their offerings. They have good medicine over there. I'm gonna go over here, and they might have good medicine for me for a month, and then I might be like, okay, I might need to just like, go over here for a little while. And so that sense of personal empowerment and autonomy and the deep listening and that deep trust that we are each, the divine in these expressions. And like, I long to experience everyone's divinity, because I long to see myself, and I long to see myself as God, and I long to see myself through people, and so through this of, this kind of fucking capitalist conditioning of hierarchy and competition and domination and exploitation and extraction, and the possibility of, it feels paradoxical, but I don't think it is, that like the individuation actually also brings us closer together. I have no idea how we ended up there. I don't know what we were talking about before, but
What's here? Like, what's here? It's supposed to be here.
May I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I guess I'm curious of how you how you are experiencing this transition.
I would say I'm experiencing this transition with, and I love what you said because it really resonates with this yearning to experience everyone's divinity. That shared expression, but like you said, has been, we're almost seeing, I can't even say the totality because totality is total, but we're seeing how limitless and infinite divine expression is, through each authentic expression of life, through every single human being, through every single plant, through every single cell in our bodies, through every single drop of water, to the river, to the ocean. Like, to me, that is, the words I use are so interchangeable. Like, when I speak about God, when I speak about life, when I speak about the universe, like, it's all one to me. I'm just playing with, like, right now it's giving life, right now it's giving, whatever.
Yeah.
And so there's this, and it's so amazing because I feel like in following that yearning, I have found the strength to sort of like let go. And I ask myself often, like in meditation and just being with myself, being with life, I'll just be like, wow, imagine the world possible when people are living fully in their divinity, and from that point allowing others to do the same. And I just, it's that potential. I can't even visualize it, but the feeling of it, it's almost like that's my guiding point. Like, what feels like, yes, this feels like the seed of the divine, of this mystery is here. And that resonates with what's here. And if that's for a moment, if that's for a week, if that's for years, if that's for my lifetime, like, I'm there. And so I feel like this transition, I mean, you said it so beautifully. I feel like we have an inheritance of what I call the consciousness of domination. We have this inheritance, and it's so deep. It's deeply ancestral. It's deeply relational. And because it feels so unquestionably real, for many, it's become who it is that we are. It hurts my heart, but some people can't imagine themselves and other people outside of who they have been told they are under domination consciousness, having specific understandings of, like, I don't know, like, I am a white man, and this is what that means in this world, and this is how I have to be in relationship to you, and like, there's just so much disconnect for me. This domination consciousness and all of the systems, the external institutions are just reflections of, have really disconnected us from the true nature of our mystery, of our potentiality. And I feel like this transition is just a complete letting go to step into that, and into the limitlessness of what that looks like, of what divinity truly is. And you said something that I loved, where there's no desire or need to make people believe. And I think that also comes from, I think that, like, wanting to, you have to sort of believe what I believe it's definitely domination, just, like, control. But there is this deep sense of dropping of superiority. Like, there is nothing that I have access that you cannot access either. There's nothing at the core of me. There's nothing you see in me that you don't have either. The wholeness of it, and just let life be the teacher. Let life be the guide. I mean, that to me is what I have felt in my own journey it's gone from me trying to guide life on my own terms, my own limited understandings of what is right and what is wrong and what is whatever. But now life is guiding me to, and I think guiding us collectively to, a much more expansive understanding that we can get glimpses of, we can get feelings of, we can get dreams, we can get all of these things, and all of those are just taste. And so now it's sort of just like a surrendering into the river And it's so exciting. Like it's exciting, and it is. There are moments where I'm literally just like, what the hell is
Mhm.
what? Like
Yeah.
it's all of the things,
Yeah.
but all of my judgments, all of my projections onto what it is, like at the end of the day, like it is what it is. It is. And I have to, and I want to accept that and embrace that. There's a poem actually that I would like to read because it reminds me about what you said at the very beginning around intimacy. What was it again? Can you just say it again?
Yeah. Not knowing is most intimate.
Yeah, and there's this like Hadith Qudsi. It's one of my absolute favorites. I get shivers. And this is from the perspective of God, of the divine, of life, of this mystery we're a part of. I was a hidden treasure, and I yearned, I loved to be known intimately. So I created the heavens and the earth so they may know me intimately. And I feel like that to me is what I feel in my own journey and the path that has made me want to be so open to only give myself to this is this yearning to know what I can about this mystery that we're a part of and to give to it myself and see what happens. You know? So that's what's real.
Yeah. So beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, there's a part of me that's like wants to finish up with a beautiful question, but I don't have a question. I gotta surrender to that.
Okay. I wonder what wants to be I wonder what wants to be known right
I
now
wonder
or
what
what
wants.
wants to be asked. I have a question. Um yeah, what are the ways that you listen?
Okay, I love that question so much and I'll say this because listening, I have determined, it's not just my own, I think it could be everyone's, but it's just been really clear to me that listening is the space I'm supposed to be right now. Even before this podcast where I felt like this like presence of nerves around, I was like, oh, like we're going in open, like I won't have the full security of questions, XYZ. And I remember just very clearly feeling within myself like, Sydney, be present, listen,
Yeah.
and curious. Be curious, and follow and trust that. So it was, how do I listen, or what was the question?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Whichever. Yeah. How or what are the ways that you listen? What is listening for you? Yeah.
I just always return to like presence. And it's amazing because I'm learning every day that presence is so much larger than just the state of being here. Like it's not just me physically being here in this room with you, but also the sense of openness to and allowing whatever it is that I'm listening to show itself free from any projection or idea or limitation of what it's like, a state of being. Like it's just, I am here. And when that I, whatever that I is, becomes very clear, it's just, I am here and this is here and life is here and I am life and you are here and can I be here open? And that to me is like, is listening. I'm not projecting, you know, this is who you are, Noah, or like this is what this moment is, and
Mm,
this is what I want it to be, you know, and this is who I
yeah.
want it to reach, and but I'm just here. And because of that, I'm open to what is. And I think
Mm,
that that to me is one of the most powerful, freeing ways of being. It's how I want to continue to build my life and my relationships
mm,
with the earth, especially when I find and have found so much comfort and peace in just going outside. And that's what I'm doing. I am here with the
yeah.
earth, and that's it,
Mm,
you know. What is it for you?
yes. Oh, I love that so much. Well, yeah, it just reminds me of, that's the intimacy of not knowing,
Mm.
of being so intimate with the land and not, projecting anything onto it, just being like, yeah, I'm here. I am practicing remembering the non-separation. And in that practice of remembering, that's for me the space of potentiality. I I don't know, but I guess the sugar maple has been in this conversation a lot. But there's a large sugar maple right outside the window here, and I'll go and I'll make offerings to them. And I remember when I first really started to be in relationship with them, my mind was kind of accustomed to or expecting a particular like linear relationship. So I would ask them questions and then I would just kind of pause and like, put my ear to their base. And at some point I was like, "Oh, sweetie, that's not how we're communicating. It's not that linear." And then I would go 4 hours later and go take a shower and then I was, "Oh, okay, this is a message from the sugar maple."
Mm.
I think that teaching was so deep for me because it really helped cut through some of my conditioning around this linearity of, speaking and hearing and processing in a particular way. And and what that actually invited me in that moment was actually a deeper listening because I was like, oh, if the sugar maple is offering me wisdom or is communing with me or is I don't know what the sugar maple is doing, but um, if there is communication that is happening, like that communication is not happening just when I'm making offerings at the base of the tree, that communication may be happening at all times. And so how am I always, listening? How am I listening in the shower? And how am I listening, putting the firewood in the fire? How am I listening driving? How am I listening riding the train in the city, And so for me, then just everything becomes a practice. And then I think, yeah, there's trust inside of that. I mean, to bring it back to the beginning where we were talking about imagination, I remember having this moment of I was like, I really want to talk to my guides, and how come my guides aren't speaking to me? And being in this like, oh, like please, like I'm so sincere, like I just, and just asking and asking and asking, and then having this moment of hearing them in a way, but they were like, we've always been speaking to you, you know, you just like I just haven't had that awareness, or I just haven't been aware of that kind of listening. And then that again, that invited me into that, oh, it's just kind of this like aperture, like opening, a little bit. It feels like again there's just so much love and support and allyship and care, and it's here, like, and there are so many beings that care so deeply for us, that want liberation, that are helping, each of us individually and collectively, helping steward us through this transition. So in that way, like, okay, yeah, just like listen and call on, dear ones that I think there's something about frequency and the ways that we can get, two beings like you and I in conversation, and there's something that happens where I think we can tune into a particular frequency, and from there, what needs to come through will come through. Yeah, and so I feel really grateful. Actually, like a lot of gratitude arises just for the experience of this, just for the knowing of this, just for the ability in this life to practice this, and to be able to tune in, and the ultimate hope that that it is of benefit and can help us get free.
Help us get free. The question came.
I love it. I love it.
I feel like, one, I could just talk to you forever, and that's why I'm so grateful that we have each other in this lifetime. Because then we can just do that and beyond. But thinking about, I like the imagery a lot of just like tapping into the frequency and attuning. I'm wondering, what okay, so now I think there's two.
Oh, I love it.
Maybe I have to let go of the fact that this conversation might just be slightly over an hour, and that's the original question was, what if you in the unknown, and I guess we are in our life, but if you in the unknown were speaking to the unknown, the embodiment of the unknown, what would you, from whatever is unfolding in your life in this moment, what would you speak to the unknown and all of her wisdom and all of her everything, and then what, I mean, I feel like this conversation is a part of it, but what are you sharing into that frequency of our transition for the collective? Maybe a hope, a prayer, whatever.
Well, I love those questions.
Thanks. I did nothing.
You did. You opened to receive them. You opened the channel to receive them. Yeah. Yeah, I think just trust for me keeps coming back. I remember when I sat a 3-month silent retreat, and well, this was when I was transitioning from a 7.5-year relationship, leaving our home, moving into storage, and going to sit 3-month retreat. And I remember talking to a friend named Aaron, and I was just kind of like, we were on like a roof in Brooklyn. It was like a party. And I was sobbing. Not the first time I've sobbed at a party, so it was kind of all good. For me personally, I think other people felt discomfort, but that's okay. And yeah, and I was just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I'm like letting go of this there's so much death, like letting go of this life, letting go of this, like this is how I thought this life would be, and now I'm being called into this other thing, and and he was just like, do you trust yourself? And I don't think I had ever really reflected on that actually before that. Like, do I trust myself, and it's so simple, and I feel like it can be so overused, but there is something like in this conversation with the divine embodiment of the unknown. It's kind of like, okay, like point me towards like just the next step. It's like really the only thing that I desire is the trust that I will have everything I need to meet the next moment, to meet the next step. And from that place, I don't need to know. I don't need to know. And that's what I pray for. And that's that is my prayer, my prayer that like I will have everything I need to meet whatever comes, to be with whatever comes, and to be of support and of offering and and for that the channel that channel of creativity to be open, so that what is being asked, what is being called forth through me, it's kind of just like use me as this vessel, as this vessel for creativity. And for me that feels like deep devotion. That feels like deep devotion to this life, to this path, which I haven't always had, or I haven't always, I think, trusted. And I think this past year has really helped me trust in all the real pain and grief and challenge. And I just want that for everyone, And so that is my prayer to myself. That is my prayer to everyone, that we have all of the resources that we need to meet the next moment, and this moment, and this moment, and this moment, and may it be beautiful and joyful and full of music and dance and food and nourishing conversations like this one, and connection and love, and yeah, and may we remember our divinity.
Oh my goodness. You sparked something so needed and yearned for with that prayer inside of me, and I have no doubt inside of those who need to hear it, those who had the need, and life knew, all right, they need to hear it, Noah. Oh my goodness. I can't even express in fullness and through words alone how grateful I am to know you and to see you and to witness you and to now share you in this moment with everyone who this will reach. And I just really hope and pray that, yeah, what had to be said is received, and I just love you, and I thank you dearly.
Thank you so much. Yeah, like you said, I feel so, like I was saying to you before we got on the call, just so deeply honored and grateful for the invitation just to share space and to be in conversation with you, and be in trust of, what our kind of co-tended, co-created field is, what is emerging from that co-tended field. And it is deep medicine and nourishment to bear witness to your path, and a deep source of support for me and refuge. It's like knowing it. It's like these moments of, because I know for me it's like this. There can be an experience of isolation, And I think in the moments where I'm just like confused, experiencing confusion and isolation and grief and sadness, and not knowing that you are also here, and you are walking your path. And we get to do this together in this life. Perhaps we already worked that out in a past life. I don't know about, I have no idea, but here we are. Yeah, I feel, I just feel such appreciation for you. So thank you. Thank you for all that you offer and continue to, and will continue to offer. It is so needed.
We end it with love, and we hope that love reaches you all. Thank you, everyone. And you'll find all that you need to connect with Noah in all of Noah's sweetness in the show notes, y'all. Be well, be free, and we're in this together.
Mm-hmm.
If you are interested in sharing your heart path story, art, or in sharing a paradigm shifting conversation on the podcast, you can find the application in the show notes or the description bar. There you will also find links to join our community on Substack, where I share personal and emergent audios related to the episode themes and my personal process of living and being another way. Come engage and connect with other listeners and co-journers in the gatherings and conversations held only on Substack. You can also find the link to my website, Jivan Mukta Healing, to learn more about the work that I do to be of service to the world at this time. Until then, I wish you and your beloveds peace and presence on the path and journey. Connect soon. Thank you for listening to Sacred Pathways, stories and wisdom from walking the heart's way. As a budding show, I would be incredibly grateful if you supported this podcast by giving us a rating, sharing this or any other episode with your loved ones in person and online, and letting me know in the comment section below how this episode resonated with you. Engagement is lovingly received and appreciated if you have received value from this. See you next time.